Hey everyone. Neoclassicism is a term related to artistic and creative movements that reflect qualities of ancient Greek and Roman philosophy, culture, and art. Although the classical Greeks and Romans lived thousands of years ago, they championed ideas like order, balance, and restraint that had lasting influence. In neoclassical design, there is an emphasis on straight lines and right angles, seriousness, logical design, a sharp move away from the curves of the Rococo. Furniture becomes restrained in its form and decoration, with a lot of use of fluting, reeding, carved friezes, oak and laurel leaves, wreaths, Greek design motifs and bands, and other various neoclassical attempts to imitate the furniture and architecture of the Romans and Greeks. Rococo design remained in style, but became combined with this more reserved neoclassical style. The success of the neoclassical design style was due to a negative reaction against the Rococo style. Even at the height of Rococo, there was an undercurrent of protests in certain circles against the asymmetry, and the sinuous curves. Some felt that they did not express the finer artistic instincts of the French. Here, take a classical look at a neoclassical interior. All of this mounting criticism coincided with the discoveries made at Pompeii and Herculaneum. In the 18th century, Herculaneum was rediscovered by a peasant digging a well. Pompeii itself was found during an excavation that began on March 23, 1748. To this day, excavations at Pompeii have continued sporadically. Portions of the site remain uncovered, and excavation and research teams are still attempting to reveal this mysterious city's secrets. Publications of the archaeological discoveries reached France and became an important factor in developing this new classical movement. Archaeology became a very fashionable subject of study and discussion. The excavations revealed how the ancients really lived. Grotesque ornament from the Greek-Roman period becomes very popular. On the left, you see an example of a grotesque from antiquity, and on the right, the more contemporary version inset in wall panels in a salon of Marie Antoinette's at Fontainebleau. The French called this type of ornament arabesques. The ornamental theme of the classical style arabesque is shown in these panels on display at a museum in Paris. Half of the panels are done by a decorative painter in a more luxurious version, and the other half is done in less costly versions as wallpaper. Wallpaper now began to imitate a wider range of coverings. They were less expensive than the real thing, and apart from repeating patterns, you could buy borders, complete pictorial scenes, and simulations of marbling, stucco work, friezes, and other architectural features. It sort of stands in place for a faux finish. You'll also see this kind of grotesque inspiration for carpets. This is the carpet for the Grand Gallery in the Louvre. Here we see griffins and laurel wreaths, busts of Roman emperors, rosettes, and scrolls for another carpet. And this is an image of the same rug in the full interior. Notice the panels above the doors that simulate Greek sculptures. We'll talk about these in just a minute. This drawing room from the Hôtel des Serres on Place Vendôme dates from the last years of the 18th century. It is also known as the Burial Drawing Room from the name of the decorator who donated it to the museum. Rectangular over-door panels are popular and often illustrate a theme of classical studies. Here we see them in a rounded form, which we call a lunette. They are made from plaster. You can actually see them in its interior in the background of the picture on the left-hand side, through that first doorway. In neoclassical furniture, the flowing curves and asymmetry of Rococo are gone. The legs are straight and the backs are usually square. The decoration on the furniture pieces, arms, and legs are usually delicately carved with different classical Greek running patterns, such as bead chains, leaf bands, and coin bands. You will also see oval medallion backs as a popular chair form. Notice other neoclassical elements of this interior. Swagged window treatments like festoons over door panels, Greek-inspired running patterns around the ceiling and crown molding, and if you look closely in the mirror, you see the over door panels from the opposite side of the room. Here is a closer look at a few furniture forms. On the right, you see a version of the popular oval medallion back chair. Again, the medallion back refers to the oval shape. This one also has enclosed arms. I'm just realizing that as I'm showing this slide, the sort of slide decoration that I have on there is blocking you from seeing the full oval. So just take a quick look. The neoclassical fauteuil à la reina armchair has fluting on straight legs, Greek running patterns like beading and waveforms. The neoclassical bergère has fluting, rosettes, triglyphs, and running bead patterns. The Voyez chair we learned about in the Rococo period, but this one is done in the neoclassical style. Remember, these periods are concurrent. Notice the Greek running patterns and the splayed leg, like the klizmos chair that we learned about in ancient Greece. Again, the mechanical desk is a form we learned about in the Rococo period, but here is one in the neoclassical style. Do you remember why this is a popular piece of furniture to have? Again, here's a form we learned about in the Rococo period, but in the neoclassical style, the console table. Take a look. Why is this neoclassical and not Rococo? We'll look more closely. You see wreaths, festoons, rosettes, and acanthus leaves. That's what makes it neoclassical and not Rococo. Many small movable tables would be placed all around rooms. They are meant for convenience and were used mostly for tea and coffee. This is why typically these tables will have a marble top for like spillage and easy cleanup, and was surrounded with a little metal pierced railing so that if you knocked something over, it wouldn't go flying off the table. The decoration is clearly inspired by Pompeii. This particular style is called an Athenian. They are done in the form of the ancient Roman tripod. Its decoration was similar to that of the classical originals. The three slender metal supports were often headed with Egyptian caryatids at the top of a terminating paw foot. Here we see an oval shape with straight legs, gold medallions, triglyphs, swags of garland, and a beaded running pattern. Here you see the marble tops, pierced metal railing, gilded, beading, and triglyphs again. In the decorative arts, gilded urns are also a popular form. New types of beds were introduced in the neoclassical style. The Turkish bed was introduced in the Louis XV style and was very fashionable in the Louis XVI style. It is very popular to see these beds set into an alcove. You also see here a fabric treatment called lambrequin, a short ornamental drapery for the top of a window or door or the edge of a shelf. Does it remind you of anything when you look at it? Something coming maybe from antiquity? Really, it kind of looks like the swags of festoons. Let's take a closer look at this image. What can you identify in this full interior that makes it neoclassical? We see dentil molding, festoons and wreaths, an over-door panel, straight-legged furniture with rectilinear backs. In this example, we see an oval room, above door panels, neoclassical styling, except for a clock in the far back of the picture. This is clearly Rococo. If you can look more closely, you can see its asymmetrical rockeye decoration. Here's another good image showing how the two styles are often mixed together and found in the same space. Notice the cabriole legs of the Rococo pieces and the straight legs of the Neoclassical. Here's an interesting transformation from the Rococo design style renovated to be a Neoclassical style, showing the shift in tastes. The original delicate pink framing holding mirrors in a fashionable woman's boudoir has been transformed by gilding the framing in gold, removing the mirrors, and adding painted scenes. A subset of neoclassical design is called empire. This empire style is a French term for the imperial phase of Napoleon's rule from 1804 to 1815, so a pretty short period of time. The empire style does remain popular in Europe and America for much, much longer. Charles Percier and Pierre Fontaine were the two most famous designers in France. Napoleon actually also hired them to redesign all of his royal estates. They produced many pattern books with illustrations of ornament in the empire style and are noted as two of the first modern interior designers. They referred to this Pompeian style as Etruscan. Some of the characteristics of the empire style are military and imperial references and gold N initials symbolizing the emperor's identity. Here at the Palace of Fontainebleau, the room has been redesigned in Napoleonic fashion with Pompeian red walls, gilded trim, mirrors, and black and gold furniture. This painting is important because of its integration of fashion and furnishings. In the painting, Juliette Récamier reclines on a settee, which came to be known as a Récamier. She wears an empire gown and has her hair done up in a Roman fashion. Think of what we know today as like an empire waistline on a dress. Empire-style beds were designed to be placed lengthwise against the wall. They were usually placed in richly draped alcoves. The inspiration were beds from antiquity. They were designed with the ends of equal height, which usually narrowed at the top and rolls over. They are sort of boat-looking, and in French, they're called lit in bateau, which literally means literature by boat. We often see something similar in modern-day furniture that people today call a sleigh bed. Here's a more restrained version in a color photo, in a fully neoclassical interior. Napoleon's expedition to Egypt in 1798 had major cultural ramifications. There was a huge renewed interest in Egyptian artifacts, but with a Napoleonic connection. The desire was not to recreate Egyptian forms, but to include motifs in neoclassical design, such as the use of Egyptian sphinx heads on a chair's front legs. Notice also in this picture the N embroidered in the fabric for Napoleon. He had a little bit of an ego. Interiors in the Empire style often take on the look of a tent interior in reference to the kind of living Napoleon would have done on the battlefields or on expedition. We see walls hung with lightweight silks falling in loose folds, windows and alcoves heavily draped and elaborately fringed in gold and silver. Pale blue and dark brown is also a popular color combination of the style. Again, the bed style is called lit in bateau. A little side note about mirrors while we're here. France still held the monopoly in producing large plates of glass, but the change in style of design called for far less use of them, like no more halls of mirrors. Essentially, the fascination with the new material had worn off. It was in fashion, however, to put mirrors in the canopies of the beds, and quickly went out of style after the minister of France was almost cut in half when his little mirror at the top of his tent bed came loose. This image is a project for a bedchamber from Percier and Fontaine's book that has a Pompeian interior. It's adorned with bronze decorations. It's furnished with a bed and a mahogany commode designed with ancient inspiration. The effect is like an archaeological reconstruction. Here's another page from Percier and Fontaine's book. Again, Percier and Fontaine. One of their greatest works was the redesign of the interiors of a chateau for Napoleon's wife, Josephine. They decorated the walls and ceilings of the dining room to look like a tent, meant to be a tent of a Roman commander, perhaps Marcus Aurelius, on a military campaign on foreign lands. They were considered the first interior designers in the modern sense, in that they designed everything within sight. They were architects, yet they were less concerned with structure and more concerned with decorative effect. They designed furniture, walls, ceilings, fireplaces, lighting, and all the accessories. The Empire design style wasn't just for Napoleon, though. Here we see a rare example of interior decoration from the height of what is sometimes called Egyptomania. Journals are responsible for popularizing the style from the elite to the masses. These pages were first published in 1802 and were in print until 1835. The journal also included designs for upholstery and window coverings. And here is a cutting from a German magazine. It shows a bed based on antique classical models. Above is an alternate treatment with a canopy. These journals and magazines show how furniture makers and textile artists had an increasing demand for the style and had to design products that were sort of filtered down from the high styles of the elite to the more simplified design styles of the general population could afford. This developed into a style called French provincial. It implies the rural or country version. Today we see ladder-back chairs, rush seats, and tie-on cushions that are popular with this style. Thanks for following. See you later.